Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for taking a few minutes to just hear what we have to say today. It's actually pretty exciting to be able to share successes that we've realized for our customers together with our customers and how AWS has really enabled us along that journey. So today I want to just kind of share a little bit of what we've gone through for the last decade or so, seeing PACS transition from what it used to be to what it is today and where we see it going in the future. So we'll jump right in and kind of baseline with what our experience has been in the radiology market for many, many years. A lot of folks are dealing with large image sizes, right? Everything radiology, cardiology, any type of ology imaging is going to be quite large. And historically, that required folks to have on-premises hardware, right? And they also tried to consolidate this equipment into one solution because historically the software was somewhat proprietary in configuration with the hardware. So that means when you bought one specific radiology software package, you probably got the hardware from that vendor, and it was very custom, and it took a lot of specialized knowledge to deal with it. That also means it didn't scale. That also means it wasn't off the shelf available if you needed to expand it or you needed to replace things. It was quite proprietary. That's the legacy world that I think a lot of people are used to having dealt with, that we're grateful to be moving out of. But as we move out of those legacy problems, what do we have? We have the same phrase, right? Problems just replace themselves with new problems. So new problems that we see faced by our customers today are first and foremost, radiologists are in short supply. I think you guys have seen it all online, all the articles about radiologist burnout. They're having to do more with fewer headcount. And when I say more, it's more workloads, it's larger image sets from bigger, new, beautiful modalities that you're seeing at RSNA and whatnot. So the radiologists are fewer in number, dealing with higher workloads, and they're also being forced to do it in a more distributed nature. Since there's fewer of them, they've got to be in different places reading for other locations, right? So now we're talking about opening the firewall up, and in large institutions, that's kind of a scary thing to say we're going to have remote users coming into our data center in our network to look at images. And so these are some of the new problems. But I think top of most people's minds here is also security, right? Every opportunity that we're participating in, security is really front and foremost before we could even progress to other financial discussions or contractual discussions. People need to know that their data is secure. And what you're doing with your server closet is probably not as good as what AWS is doing with their server closet, because they have the biggest server closet in the planet, basically. The data centers we use with AWS obviously have teams of people that just focus on security around the clock and scalability. And so these are some of the reasons that we're leveraging AWS that we'll talk about today. So what do we want to do when we move beyond the legacy PACS market? We think it's important that people aren't just replacing their legacy solution to offer their physicians some new tools today, but you really have the opportunity to plan a future-proof platform. And future-proof platform is taking into account everything from software functionality to infrastructure and connectivity and security, obviously, as well. So what are people looking for from a future-proof system? It's got to be fast and reliable, obviously. It's got to be secure, but it's got to be simple, because we've got to remove this proprietary nature from having to deal with each system as a unique snowflake and burden the healthcare facilities with this. We need to follow more standards, and moving into the cloud is one of the paths for that. So this is the goal for us, for our customers, and for the whole market moving forward, is to develop a real future-proof platform that's also scalable. We see a lot of consolidation and a lot of growth, and as people grow, they need to add more equipment, they need to add more hardware. They don't need to have to redo their entire infrastructure or contemplate really complex changes to do this. They need to be able to click a button and spin something up and really just move along from there. So what does a future-proof platform look like for Visage? So our slogan is a future-proof platform powered by speed. If you ever interact with anyone from Visage, you should notice a trend of speed. Speed is the most important thing for our customers, and therefore it's the most important thing for us as well. Speed means how fast we can open up images. We want to deliver images in under a second for our users, and we want to deliver all of the images. This is one of the important benefits that is unique not only to our software package, but it's also enabled by the strength of the cloud. We have a motto that when a physician opens up a single study for a patient, they get the whole jacket every time. There's no, maybe you have half the studies, maybe you don't. So the system's also got to be scalable, like we've talked about, and it's got to be flexibly implemented depending on the customer's current infrastructure needs. Um, and then obviously clinical depth is something that's becoming more and more relevant. A lot of institutions have dozens of software assets that they're using that now when you have a more robust viewer, you can reduce the number of products that you use. You can consolidate a lot of the viewing applications into something that is more powerful, frankly, because it's not siloed based on hardware reduction or something like this. And that's what our customers really want to benefit from. So rather than just talk about product or stats, we want to take the time and actually share some experiences from some of our customers with you guys as well. We've been doing CloudPACS for about 7 years, and over the last 4 years, we've exclusively deployed our customers into the cloud. And our customers are some of the top academics in the country. 50% of the top 20 hospitals are Visage users for their full enterprise imaging suite. So the fact that we have this exposure at scale has enabled us to share these really positive experiences with you. So this is just a customer that's fairly recent for us. Um, they read for a large customer of ours. This was the Telerad group that read for them. And they had a separate system that they read for about 75 facilities, ranging from diagnostic outpatient imaging centers to rural critical access facilities. And they actually had a breach about a month and a half ago, and it took that part of their business down. And so 75 facilities were going to be without RAD coverage instantly. And the CEO of the organization called us up and just said, you know, I know we're moving forward with you guys, but can you help me? Can you help me? And that's one thing that I can say I love about Visage is the focus on our customers. Our global head of service, when she heard about this, she said, yeah, we can and we will help you immediately. And you can see the stats here, right? 75 medical facilities, 80 primary readers, a burden volume of about 500,000 studies a year, dozens of VPNs, and we were able, with the help of AWS, we were able to turn up their production system in 48 hours, which I think is pretty unheard of. And it's not something that we want anyone to have to go through, but it enabled our team to do what we already do well by leveraging AWS. And I think the Visage platform, being one platform that handles so many features and functions, really helps users to have a quick adoption. The infrastructure and the back end of the code really helps our team to move quickly in a deployment. And then AWS's infrastructure just being infinitely available on demand allowed us to really turnkey this and make a true impact. And within days, not weeks, within days, we had dozens and dozens of radiologists reading this system and helping patients not have to go without. So that was a great success that I think highlights the combination of our relationship when we do Visage 7 with AWS. What are some of the benefits when you upgrade to Visage 7 on AWS? Performance, I keep saying speed is going to be the trend, right? Performance is something that when you move to the cloud, it's mind-blowing. When we say we want customers to have access to images in a second or less, we mean their entire patient chart. If you have a lung transplant patient, they might have hundreds of priors available. We can't have those physicians waiting on that. It's all instant, whether it's the 105th prior or the current study. But one thing that was unique when we started to leverage more installations into the cloud, we found that our product just performed even a little bit faster because the back-end infrastructure of AWS is heavier than whatever on-prem hardware you're going to try and afford and put out. The IOPS might match, the proc horsepower might match, but the back-end infrastructure that AWS brings just enables us to be even faster in the cloud, which is kind of opposite to what a lot of people would think. They would think, I'm going to move my big on-prem footprint into the cloud. What am I going to give up in terms of performance? And it's quite the opposite. You're going to actually gain and increase performance. It's literally future-proofing yourself. So Some of the other benefits we'll talk about, I've mentioned getting up and running quickly. That's really important, not just for new installations, but for any new acquisitions, any new workloads that you're going to move into the cloud. You don't have to think about throwing away the old and developing new. You can literally just click, expand, continue, move forward. We want your healthcare business to focus on patients, not have to struggle with technology. So also anytime, anywhere availability, right? The walls are no longer the confines of the radiologist. They don't have to stay in the rad department in the building. They're reading from multiple locations. We know with our workflow orchestration tool that we have one user sitting in location X and they're reading for multiple locations that are far away, right? So you've got a lot more remote viewing going on, and the cloud lends to that because everything's connected to the cloud pretty much, right? Anywhere you're at, you can have the same performance. So we want to leverage the point that your users should expect the exact same performance if they're remote as if they're on site. It shouldn't matter where the location is anymore. And then obviously security is paramount for us. And that's one thing that we just keep hearing from our customers when we say we're deploying in AWS. It's almost like a checkbox of validation because they're known for security excellence, frankly. But what does that hype land as? We need to talk about the actual value that is realized for folks, right? It's nice to say that we can relieve some stress from the IT or the potential of having to buy new hardware, but where does it land for facilities now and every day as we step forward? And these are some interesting stats that we've gathered from our customers who are complex users reading, at academic institutions that have the best equipment, reading some of the most complicated studies. So the workload burden is high. We see that the productivity that we're able to offer our radiologists is significant. It's hours a day that they're given back, that they aren't having to do with waiting on studies, waiting on priors, going and hunting for this, dragging these images around so that they work the right way, collaborating with other physicians via some third-party tool. We integrate so much functionality into the tool and deliver it so quickly from AWS that we see actually radiologists get more time in their day to read more exams. And that relief is important right now. We need to offer radiologists relief for once, actually, because there's such a shortage of them, right? So faster implementation. Obviously, I've been hitting that hard. You saw that we were able to spin up a production environment that's pretty large for 500,000 studies a year in days. We're actually able to deploy 3 times faster when we deploy in the cloud versus when we would be legacy on-prem for many years. The third one is pretty significant, and I don't think many people consider this. So when you have a product that's highly performant and highly featured, you can challenge other workloads outside of viewing alone. So if you think about CT, for example, whenever a tech performs a CT on a patient, they get a set of images, and then they spend time after the study going and doing reconstructions, different views, obliques, sagittals, coronals, whatever the different views that they know the radiologist or the other physicians are going to want for this study, right? And we can actually, with the Visage 7 viewer, we can actually leverage that into the hanging protocols automatically, so that we've had customers say, I'm not going to burden my techs with doing recons anymore. I'm going to have my techs do the scan, send the thin slices to Visage, and storage in the cloud is so affordable. Why not send your thinnest 0.7 millimeter slices and know that you're going to have the best imaging available for life? Well, don't send me your recons. Don't wait on that. When the radiologist opens up the study, we'll build those recons instantly in a second on the fly. However, and some physicians like different recons. So the system can actually cater to one set of recons for physician A and a different set for physician B. But the point I want to leverage is not that just that Visage's viewer enabled this, but the customers are able to receive pickup. They're able to perform up to 23% more exams per day, week, month, year. That hits the bottom line. That hits the patients who are waiting, that need care in this constrained healthcare environment that we're in today. So it's pretty impactful, and we need people to stop thinking exclusively about the viewer's experience and start thinking about the impact on the rest of the workload and the revenue for these businesses. So the last part, reconstructions, I kind of jumped the gun and said that's our enabler for this. We do these reconstructions on the fly. So why Visage on AWS? Just to kind of hit the point again, we haven't found any practical boundaries for it. Even with the introduction of AI, AI is bringing new challenges. There's not a lot of standardization. It varies wildly on what the data sets that delivered look like, whether it's secondary capture images or it's just metadata, whether you're launching an interactive experience or you're just responding with results. All these things are varying based on AI vendor, right? Well, when you leverage yourself in the cloud with a vendor that's natively cloud ready, we are the CloudPACS company, for example. When you get into that environment with a company that's already leveraging GPUs for rendering, that's what AI companies usually do as well. So guess what? Now we're collaborating with similar environments. And these AI companies perform really well in AWS because of all the infrastructure that's behind it. So when we talk about ways that it doesn't have boundaries, that we think it's future proof, it's not just about scalability, right? It's about new workloads that are coming into play that we got to be able to handle without forcing it back on-prem for the customer. We see a lot of our customers that are wanting to relieve that stress of all the IT connectivity and performance, and that's what moving to the cloud to us is going to offer. So let's talk about what we're leveraging. Just list some of the AWS products that we use in our deployments. This isn't supposed to wow you. This is supposed to make you realize that this is off-the-shelf stuff from AWS in a way. We're using their EC2 compute. We're using a little bit of their block storage for caching, and we're leveraging their S3 storage most significantly because we can keep these massive data sets at a very economical rate without sacrificing performance. Tapes and DVDs to pull your old archive images, those days are obviously dead. Hopefully for everybody here, those days are dead. But we're just using off-the-shelf components that we integrate in the proper way to get this level of performance, frankly. And when I say the level of performance, it's tried and true with Visage and AWS for years. I'll give you guys one more example of a customer of ours that's pretty impactful, I think. The UC Health System. UC Davis, UC Irvine. I'm sure everybody's heard of the UC Health System. They've been a customer of ours for many years now. And when we first got introduced with them, we wanted to move them to the cloud. They were very interested in moving to the cloud. And they did a proof of concept because they were very doubtful. What is performance for a high skill set, high volume facility with challenging users? What is it going to look like when we move it off-prem into the cloud? And more importantly than that, you guys have probably heard the San Andreas fault. Some people in California are nervous that that's going to interrupt their connectivity, and reliability in the cloud is a concern. Well, we've had them in the cloud for many years, and we've got quite a few benefits that I can share with you today. So number one, they saw that the performance of Visage in the cloud was so good that they were able to retire a lot of legacy products that were siloed for feature functionality. They were able to consolidate that into one really highly performing product. So that was really good. But number two, when it comes time to replace the on-prem hardware that they have for failover, we don't think they're going to do it because they've never had to leverage their on-prem failover. When they first moved into the cloud, they knew they were moderately early adopters, so they also deployed an on-prem big set of infrastructure just in case. And that's what's so great about the cloud. You don't have to buy a second set of data for a second set of hardware for redundancy, only to sit there and pray that you never have to use that equipment that you spent a ton of money on. When we deploy into the cloud, we deploy with AWS in multiple zones. And when we deploy in multiple zones, that gives you resiliency. If one zone has an issue, you fail over. But that's not the best way to configure it. One of the things that we leverage as a best practice is we distribute the workload as well across the zones. So we're actually leveraging that backup compute, that backup infrastructure all the time, so you're maximizing what you realize from that expense. It's not just sitting there on the shelf accruing a bill while you pray that you never use it. We want to make sure our customers get all the performance they can with the absolute best economics available. And the experience from the UC Health System is just one of, frankly, dozens of examples that we'd love to talk with you guys about moving forward. So, next steps. I appreciate you guys spending the time listening to us kind of talk about where we see the future of CloudPACS going and where we hope everyone else follows suit. And, stop by our booth, stop by our website. We'd be happy to show you what we do. We'd be happy to show you how it is instant, how you can actually open up giant 3D mammo studies in a second, how you can open up studies with thousands of images and dozens of priors in a second. and why it's so fast is what's really gonna leverage the cloud point for you guys. So thanks for spending the time with us today. If anyone has any questions, I think we've got a minute or two.